For decades, the rhythms of South Asian dance have echoed through villages, temples, studios and cinema screens, but the histories behind those movements were mostly undocumented, scattered in memory, or hidden behind language barriers and academic gatekeeping. Until recently, these stories lived quietly in the bodies of dancers, in faded photographs, in whispers passed from teacher to student, but not in the kind of written record that would preserve them for future generations. That silence began to break in 2022, when a group of dancers and scholars launched a journal called SADI, a platform where forgotten legacies, local knowledge, and contested histories of South Asian dance could finally be seen and heard. It begins with a photo, sepia-toned but alive with fire, showing Vajira Chitrasena mid-leap, her arms extended like an apsara carved into the walls of an ancient temple. Long before global attention ever reached Sri Lanka's dance heritage, Vajira helped turn Kandyan dance, once a ritual form from the island's highlands, into a stage art that could hold its own in front of any international audience. She did not simply perform, she built pedagogy, codified movements, and shaped the future of an art once too local to be seen. Not far away, across borders and across politics, another journey unfolded as Indu Mitha, now 96, carried Bharatanatyam from Kalakstra to Lahore in the 1950s, nurturing the form through turbulent times, and eventually giving it a unique regional identity. These stories are not rare, they are simply rarely told. In India alone, there are hundreds, from Telugu court dances that encoded royal history into movement, to cinematic Bharatanatyam, shaped by unsung performers who dazzled screens in Tamil and Hindi films, but remained unnamed in textbooks. And each one speaks not only to art, but to caste, politics, gender, religion, and resistance. This is what SADI, short for South Asian Dance Intersections, was created to confront. The journal, whose name also means ours in Punjabi, isn't just about writing, it's about who gets to write, who gets heard, and what stories are considered worth telling. Edited by scholar and activist Arshia Sethi, and supported by voices like Irmamala Sarkar Munsi, the journal creates space for writings not just from polished academics, but from practitioners, performers, and local researchers across Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh and India. It's a deliberate counter to how mainstream scholarship has long been skewed toward Western universities and English-speaking elites, often ignoring rich vernacular traditions unless they are filtered through Western approval. In its pages, you'll find Shima Kermanis, moving essays on the struggle of male Kathak dancers in Pakistan, facing both clerical condemnation and state suspicion. You'll walk with Yashoda Thakor, a Kuchipudi dancer who stumbles on the revelation that her own guru is descended from Amini, a Devadasi who shook Europe with her performances in 1838. And you'll meet Lubna Mariam, who challenges why a vibrant folk dance in rural Bangladesh is vilified as immoral, even though it connects people to the land and their stories. This is not history from the top, it's history from the body, the soil, the family, the whisper. What even defines South Asian dance? Academics like Avanti Meduri trace how classical Indian dances, Bharatanatyam, Kathak, Odissi, were only labeled South Asian in the 1980s, when they began to be funded abroad and presented on global stages like in the UK. Today, the boundaries have blurred. A Pakistani dancer might be trained in Kathak, a Sri Lankan might choreograph in Bharatanatyam, and a Bangladeshi might remix folk forms with global movement styles, because diaspora isn't a place, it's a process. The story of Sushant Gaurav, a young Kathak dancer trained in the rare Lahore Lucknow Gharana, who now performs in London, is one example of how heritage travels, not in museums but in bodies, breaths, and beats. In an essay for SADI, Odissi dancer Adya Kaktikar reflects on this tension, arguing that classical grammar can still hold joy, even while acknowledging the political weight it carries. Her guru, now a canonical name in Odissi, once had to invent his path through an invisible art and a divided world, and like him, she continues to negotiate with both tradition and critique. In India, the divide between performance and scholarship is sharp, dancers rarely write, and scholars rarely move, but SADI asks, why not both? Why can't a memory passed through a footwork sequence be as valid as one typed in Times New Roman? SADI is still young, just a few issues old, but what it's doing is ancient. It's remembering. Remembering women who danced through silence, communities who preserved art despite shame, and the stubborn knowledge that movement always survives, even when history forgets. In a world that wants archives to be tidy and formal, SADI insists that a journal can be messy, multilingual, lived in, and full of life. Because the past doesn't just live in books, it lives in knees that bend, arms that stretch, and stories that will no longer stay invisible.